So for today, we're going to talk about how to connect with the global grid, what the global grid is, how to connect to your heart chakra, and connect it to and get your heart chakra to connect to your basically your mental chakra. And the objective is to tune into the heart, lower the frequency. The heart frequency is around 100 beats per second, or 100 per second. That's 1/10 of a hertz. And if you can focus on your heart and the beating of your heart, and then have the intention of being holding in your mind whomever it is that you have the most love and affection for. And the heart is a frequency that is your strongest connection to the global grid. It is the best way to connect to the global grid is through your heart and your heart frequency. And getting your mind and your heart in sequence or in harmony is really the best way to. And I think the purpose of this meditation is to express our own personal power into the grid and allow us all to connect at a loving frequency. And SCIET Dynamics is a simple concept that enables us to visualize the formation of the etheric field and how it is developed, or how it is manifest through each of us by all our movements, and all movement in fact, and how it exists from the beginning of the void and then manifests into 3D. The underlying reality is that we, by understanding that, we can understand how the sphere of consciousness that surrounds the Earth, sometimes called the noophere, and it refers to the field of consciousness around the planet. Other people call it the morphic field, the biogrid. It's all related to the same idea. And in a summary of that in SCIET Dynamics is that all resonance results in an ongoing recording of that resonance around whatever is resonating. So the planet that has given rise to life resonates with life, and that resonance is stored in a continuous continuously fed into a sphere of energy around the planet. And so everything we do, all of our movements, everything all of our life is connected to this field. And one way to think of it is to realize that in science, the idea that light can both be expressed as a particle and as a wave. Well, if you take that idea and you think about being incarnate versus not being incarnate, when you're incarnate, all of your life energy, which is focused on one location, like it's so that would be the particle stage of the light that energizes us. When we are discarnate, that energy becomes a wave, and that wave is spread around the planet as a layer of consciousness. That's why when people who are in the afterlife, you can connect to them regardless of where you are, because they're pretty much everywhere. They are essentially a frequency that surrounds the planet. And they live amongst all the other frequencies that surround the planet. So the afterlife is a state of awareness that the consciousness can manifest within. And so this spheric field of energy that our consciousness creates is what we are energizing with our meditations. And that's why I'm referring to the heart frequency and connecting to the heart, because in developing this idea of communicating how to connect to the higher frequencies and to connect to meditate at a level that will connect to the global grid, it's really necessary to find some common denominator, something everybody has and everybody can connect with at the same, through the same kind of visualizations. And so, you know, we have, Cobra has taught us about breathing and listening to your breath. And that's a good way to start, because that it gets connects you to your body. But beyond that, you can connect to your heart. And for some people, it amounts to connecting to their pulse. But essentially what you want to do is focus on it with your mind and connect to it in a visualization, and hold that visualization, and that, you know, try to merge your meditative state in with your heart frequency. The global field is, if you can imagine yourself as a cork floating on a pond, and that the ripples that move away from you on the surface of that pond, that would be like your interaction with the global field. That rippling effect is occurring all the time, and so the objective is to make that rippling effect almost invisible, but at the surface, and extending away from you in all directions to enable a full expression of your personal energy. Now, Cobra wants us to, like, you know, basically utilize our heart energy, our higher consciousness to be in connection with our highest purpose spiritually. We decided to do 3 meditations, one on each phase of the moon, the new moon, the first quarter, and then the full. And the purpose of that is to enable the intention to be set, because the nature of the moon cycle is that when if you want to get something accomplished, the strongest effect is that you set your intention, what you want for the cycle, at the new moon, and then you re-emphasize it on the first quarter, and then at the full moon, you do everything you can to manifest it. A lot of people think that this new moon, this full moon, should be extremely powerful. It has the opportunity to be extremely powerful, and so that's our objective, is to embed an intention into it at the new moon, and re-emphasize it on the first quarter, and then manifest it on the full moon. We have Cobra's return of the light activation. I've got Cobra's page up here. So he's talking about the grand square, the powerful energies that are coming in at this point, and this grand square involves it looks like it's Uranus and It's an asteroid. I think it's Vespa. But you know, the thing is to understand what the energy is like here. When you have a grand square in a person's chart, it represents, it's like coming to an intersection in which there's a four-way stop. And if you've ever been to a four-way stop where people are not asserting themselves or just sit there, and you know, it's like you know, there's not any movement. Everybody's in plain view, but they're not moving. To work with a grand square, you have to assert intention and movement. And so one of the advantages to working with this energy is that while the actual opposition to the moon and sun exists, it is open. It doesn't have any forward motion. In other words, it doesn't have its own frequency expressing. And so it's much easier to put intention into the moon at that point. And so the moon-sun opposition, for a moment, it is basically open to as much input as we can manifest. During the aspects of the moon, the full moon, the new moon, the first quarter, there is a shifting of gears in each of those stages. So when that shift occurs, the energies are most open to us imprinting our intention onto them. The main thing I think that everybody can identify with and understand is that when we are meditating at the same time, we're in resonance with one another. And that resonance within that sphere, or within that field, is like the resonance of, you know, two corks bobbing on the same pond. They create a lot of mutual intersections that then are at higher frequencies.
How does this relate to the event and anchoring the frequency that we need to trigger the event?
Well, good question, because you know, I think the thing about the event is that it is a pulse from the central sun that is expressed through our sun, and that then sort of is expressed throughout the solar system more or less simultaneously through the resonance of the planets with the sun. And I think that there's an expectation that we are very important in triggering it, because until we can overcome the negativity that's being generated by the population on the planet, it's going to be very hard for that frequency to be generated. So that's really the focus here, is that if we can do the 3 meditations, that will give us an opportunity to connect to the higher forces, light forces, and set up a trigger event. A trigger event is something that's got to be coordinated in order to get the most effect. And so having this coordinated effort is really, I think, important.
So if I understand you right, I think you're saying that even if we are few, if we raise our consciousness at exactly the right time, which is at this new moon with a solar eclipse, it affects the whole noosphere. So it affects the whole consciousness and raises the entire human consciousness. Is that right?
Right, because you know, they've done a lot of studies on meditation and people doing meditation, groups doing meditation in municipal areas, and they have demonstrated that there is a reduction of violence and hostility when the frequencies are being generated at the local level. And so the same thing occurs globally. And the deeper you can go, the greater the effect. That's why I was talking about earlier talking about the heart frequency, because 100 cycles per second. I mean, a hertz is 1,000 cycles per second. So it's 0.1 hertz is a cycle of the heart, and that's a very low. I mean, when you talk about meditative states and the beta and theta waves of the mind, those are in hertz. So you're talking about 4,000 hertz, and as opposed to 100 hertz. So if you focusing on the heart and connecting it to the mind and making an effort to connect the consciousness of your mind to the frequency of the heart, and this can be done with the visualization. This is the strongest way, because when you visualize something, you are in effect, you're making a pattern of it in the ethers, and that pattern is interactive. And so the power of visualization is very real and powerful. And if we can visualize ourselves meditating with the heart, and at the same time being at the center of a global field that we are essentially radiating into and resonating with, then these kinds of visualizations will enable us to have much greater effect. I think our objective here is to come up with a uniform strategy to have the greatest impact. And you want to know more about the noosphere, because the noosphere is this is the basis of our shared consciousness on the planet. And in your body, you have multiple levels of awareness, different frequencies. For instance, your brain generates a field inside of your head that allows you to model what's around you. And this level of frequency is used for telepathy and basically how we connect with each other. But there is a higher frequency that's related to the pineal gland, and that is also related to the DNA. The frequency of that we use to you think of the pineal gland as your personal stargate, so that when you are able to use your pineal gland effectively, you can project yourself wherever you want in the world. Most people today suffer from calcification of the pineal gland. It's been deliberately damaged by the powers that be, because they really don't want humans to connect to their power. But the frequency of consciousness that we all have at the pineal gland level is where where the noosphere really resides. When somebody is in the afterlife, they can resonate with other people, living people, and generate essentially what's known as a sphere orb. Okay, that's the term people use, orb. Orbs are essentially a pattern similar to what exists in our skulls and what we create and use to think with. It is essentially built of the chakra energy that we manifest when we're alive, and when we die, we go into the afterlife. But when people are in the afterlife, when people are connecting to the living, and particularly in areas that have a high frequency of love around them, they can then bring that frequency from the pineal gland level into the brain visualization level. And that's what creates orbs. Orbs are a manifestation of the consciousness of people from the afterlife who are essentially in resonance with the living. So you find them commonly around people who are psychic, and in areas where you have a lot of psychic energy, a lot of high frequency, where they call it where the veil is thin. But for most of us, the important part is to actually connect at the pineal gland level. We're talking about, the frequency that comes in our DNA. The DNA is a long strand, and it is comprised of pairs. And down the middle of the DNA strand is a full band of energy that we can connect with. This is when the DNA frequency is understood, it'll be understood that it's the same frequency that is being used by the pineal gland to connect to our visions and to connect to essentially connecting to other planes of existence. And so I think if we can focus on connecting to the pineal gland, or through the pineal gland, which is in the middle of our head, and use that energy, because that, when we talk about our going inward when we meditate, the part of our brain that where the pineal gland is located is the middle of our center of our consciousness. And so whether we're trying to or not, this is where we have the most effect. If we can project our center of being into the pineal gland, and at the same time connect it with the heart chakra, or the frequency of the heart, then we'll be able to have the most powerful effect on the energy of the planet, the noosphere. And so it's not so necessary to have large volumes of people, but when you have people who are connecting at the highest frequencies, then you have a much greater effect than people who are connecting at the lower frequency. The higher the frequency, or I should say, the smaller the part that is in the homeopathy, the greater its effect, the more powerful it is. And so when we're meditating, the higher the frequency, the smaller the part that we're able to work with, the more powerful it is globally. And so I think that's the key thing. And people learn to meditate, they focus on achieving a high meditative state. It seems a little irrational almost to talk about achieving these high states with very little preparation. That's why focusing on the heart rhythm, and focusing on centering it, connecting with your pineal gland, and then the intention has to be related to the love you feel, your internal connection to your highest state of love that you can manifest in yourself. For most people, it involves, their real experience of love within their life, a family member, a mate, a child, a parent, grandparent, something like that. And if so, the intention of expressing that love should be then to push that love to your loved one. Okay, imagine them and project your love at them, to them, and as part of the noosphere, that they're there and you're expressing it to them. Uh, this then has the effect of benefiting the entire field. And really, I think the key is for us to try to identify something in our life that we can all connect to. We would hope these would be shortcuts to achieving a high state of frequency and connecting into the global grid, the noosphere.
Well, another question some people have had is, why do we meditate with the moon phases? I mean, some people here and there have talked about the moon being an artificial body and, dark civilizations on the other side of the moon. Is it safe to meditate with the moon? Why is that a good thing or not?
Okay, well, a good question. In a sense, yes, there are negative energies on the moon, and the moon is an artificial body. And there's a lot of historical references indicate that it wasn't here originally, and but humanity has evolved our consciousness on the planet in resonance with the moon. We're all aware of this. Whether or not where the moon came from or who else might be on it is not as important as the fact that it is a part of our own individual consciousness, and that the effect of the moon is based on the cycles, and those cycles are part of what we experience. For instance, if you were using the moon cycles for your personal growth, you would experience a new moon phase where you would be able to focus on your goals for the month. Now, as the moon goes around the solar system, or goes around through its phases, it is aspecting, conjuncting, and applying aspects to all of the planets in the solar system and in your natal chart. So as the moon phases happen over a month, every aspect in your own chart goes through a full evolutionary set of phases. So when you have ideas, you have projects, internal projects, each of those projects is in resonance to all of these aspects of your personality. And so a full turn around the moon around the Earth, allows us to have to evolve each of those centers of thought and processing through a full cycle. So the moon represents a full cycle of all of our processes internally, and that is our personal connection to the moon. It's not we're not talking about projecting your consciousness at the moon and basically using the moon energy. You are already using the moon energy. It is a part of your overall resonance as a being who's in resonance with the solar system, so it's really a matter about using the natural energies and harnessing them to your higher purposes. Like I said, when the moon is on exact orb, when it is exactly conjunct on the new moon and exactly opposition during the full moon, it is for a moment. The energies are neither applying nor waxing or waning. They're at a standstill for a moment, and it's during that point, that time, that we can infuse it with our own positive intentions. And it's a similar thing, not as direct and powerful on the first quarter, but the first quarter, it does have that moment in which it goes from separating to applying. And so it's during that stage that we have the opportunity to input our wishes and intentions and have them be in basically what it amounts to is that the moon is a natural force for us. And if we can connect our own cycle into it, then that makes our own cycle more powerful for us personally and throughout society. So that's really the objective, is to connect our own cycle into the cycle of the entire society. And
so I think you were saying that if our intention at the full moon is, per Cobra's meditation, to anchor maximum light through our bodies and trigger the event, I believe you said that at the new moon, you don't have to exactly know how to do that. You just set your intention to do that.
Right.
And your expectation that that will happen at the full moon. Can you talk more about that part of the process?
Yeah. When I first began to research psychic power when I was in my 20s, the one thing that occurred or showed up in all of these discussions about magic or manifestation is that you have to have expectation. You have to, and I don't know if everybody can identify with the idea of what expectation is, but it's a if you're a child and you are expecting something for Christmas, and so all the time before Christmas you're like anticipating it, and then when you open it, you open your presents, there is that emotional charge that goes into that event. Your expectation of your desired result is such that if you don't get it, you'll feel crushed. Okay, so there is an emotional drive associated with expectation, and that emotion has the effect of creating a vacuum. We emotionally desire something. We are essentially anticipating its existence, and yet it doesn't exist. So anticipation and expectation have the effect of what I wrote about this earlier. It's called I called it vacuum forming your desires. Essentially, what you're doing is you're projecting you're making room in space for something to exist. Okay, and in a sense, you are forming your dreams in space so that reality can flow into it. The effect for us in a practical sense is that you have to know that something is there. You have to visualize it. You have to make room for it. The expectation has to be so well expressed that like the universe has to manifest it, because you've made it so it can't, so it's out of balance if it doesn't, and so the power of expectation and manifestation is connected to that force of personality that we all have, and it's something that many of us don't really harness the way we did when we were children. We don't we don't anticipate, what it is that we want actually coming into our lives. We don't make room for it in advance. We don't make it so that, if it doesn't, there's an empty spot that has to be filled anyway. We might be desiring massive participation. We might be desiring a global pulse of higher frequency manifested on this time. In a sense, it's not entirely just up to us about manifesting ascension. As I mentioned earlier, this is something that has to come. It's like when we're ready, there will be a pulse, and but we have no way of knowing all of the factors that are involved in how a source detects that pulse. We know that the higher beings, the Pleiadians and such, are working on this and feel like they are aware of that they can detect it. They know when it's going to happen to a certain extent, or I shouldn't say they know when it's going to happen. They know what it is and will be able to detect it when it happens. Whereas most people have no idea what's going to happen, nor will they at first recognize it. The ability of us to not feel crushed because our expectations weren't met can't be, connected to imagining that the event itself is going to happen. We should be focusing our expectations on enlarging the number of people who are available, people who are participating and having the highest pulse energy, because it is this energy that's going to manifest it, cause source and the higher forces to, as Cobra has said, that when we can do this is when we will be perceived as being ready, that we can manifest it not directly, but by manifesting a higher frequency that will make it acceptable to the higher forces for it to happen. That we can say we're ready, and I think that's the expectation that we should have, is that we're going to make it clear that we are ready for higher frequencies to come. That's the only feedback we've gotten, over the past years. I mean, that's the only thing that we've gotten about our meditations, is that we were successful and you might say moving the needle. I don't know who's watching it, but it appears to be that there are higher etheric states that do monitor it. Yeah.
So I guess it's like when you send a wave across a pool and it just keeps coming and it just gets more and more till it rocks right out of the container, because we are seeing more people wake up.
Yeah.
Every year. We're not seeing the changes we want to see, but we're seeing more people get much more aware.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, it's interesting. We started talking about the event, and the event included mass arrests and a higher frequency and full disclosure and 5 or 6 things that we identified as being part of the event. And now we're seeing a lot of people on the internet who are Trump supporters talking about the Great Awakening and so on and so forth, but they're only like one-dimensional compared to where we've been coming from all this time. They're talking about mass arrests, and that's the one thing that they're focused on. And that's always been a part of our strategy, because we understand that mass arrest means that everybody's going to be aware that our planet is going through changes. It's going to signify to everybody who sees this that things are changing, and there will be, we would hope that the mass arrest will come with an announcement of a financial reset, and regardless of the currency reset, there is a debt jubilee, which doesn't have anything to do with the bankers other than cutting their strings. The debt jubilee is probably the biggest issue that will cause a global sense, an ecstatic moment, I think.
So that's one of the 3D ways for people who are a little bit more 3D of saying we want change. So it's like telling the galactic central sun, we want this and we're ready.
Right. Well, it's always been my thought that when a moment of the global ecstasy that will come from a jubilee, when people are freed from debts, that this is a feeling that's going to be unmistakable. I mean, when there are different systems that are used around the world to measure the global energies. I remember when Diana died back in the 90s, there was a notable pulse in the background frequency of the planet, and
Right.
And people noticed that and wrote about it. And this is the same idea. When the event occurs, there's going to be something that really rocks people's boat. I tend to think of it as being the change in frequencies and being a byproduct of probably the debt relief. The new moon sets intention, but we can do that with just a few people. I mean, we've got 25 people. We can share that energy and push it out there, and that will have a very positive effect. And because if we have the same 25 people doing it or more, then that's going. It's like, it's like when you're spinning something and you continue to give it a nudge as it spins. This